ups and downs. What are you thinking about this game so far, Dustin? Because it seemed a little rough so far.
Well, yeah, those first 5 minutes, the Canucks weren't ready for the Canes. I mean, they're such a fast-paced team, and they come out every night. They are ready to start. First 5 minutes definitely looked like it was going to be a really long night. And then Hughes' response to the first goal is probably the only up we have from that period. He really drove the offense there, and then found Miller. Miller showed great patience on the goal, looking to find Besser. But other than that, it's been rough. It's really unfortunate the offside on Bains' potentially second goal there being called back. Very smart timeout by Brind'Amour there to get that call right.
Exactly.
But absolutely killed any momentum we had. Just took it and put it out of the mind completely, and we've struggled to generate anything since then. We got to clean up the first pass out of the zone. We're getting away with a couple of weak clearing attempts. Myers and even Miller there. Lankinen has looked solid. I know someone in the chat there was hoping for Shilovs, but
Yeah.
honestly, the two goals, he didn't really have much chance. The one's a one-timer off of a perfect tip pass, and he almost made the save on that one, and then we give up a breakaway to one of the most talented offensive players in the league. So you would expect that to find the back of the net on a breakaway.
Well, it's one of those things, right? I think that it was one of those defensive breakdowns that I think we saw in the first 3 games of the season, but we haven't seen. And I believe it was Carson Soucy in front. And rather than being aggressive and going to the guy who's clearly going to get the shot, he fades back to the net and gives the guy all the time in the world to wind up for a very clean one-timer. So it's one of those things where I feel like Myers and Soucy this year have maybe been a little bit getting their wires crossed still. Even they've had some great games, but there's also been moments where they just seem like they have no idea where each other are or what the other one's doing.
I agree. It seems like we're getting either one or the other game to game. And even tonight, Soucy probably tried to sell that penalty towards the end there.
Yeah.
You just got to stay on your feet, be harder on the puck, and then if you fall, you might have got the call, but he definitely sold that one. And yeah, I agree. They look discombobulated out there, if you will.
Well, there was the one up that turned into a down when Bains got his second goal of the year and his second goal of his career. His parents are in the crowd cheering and all that. So you hate to see that one come back. And then even looking at that as a coach's challenge, they challenged it for offside. But I think it's one of those ones that even as a kicking motion, it might have even been called off for that too. So, either way, It's probably getting called back.
Yeah, that was a tough one. Just absolutely killed the momentum, but we can't let things like that affect us as much as they do. I found quite often with this team, when emotional things happen in the game, our response tends to be a bit pouty, fall off. We kind of back into our shells a bit, and I think that's where we miss Joshua big time. Is he's the guy that would push back, and we're lacking that forward right now that's really driving the pushback. I mean, Connor Garland tries, bless his heart, but the guy's a little bit smaller than Joshua and has a bit harder time playing that rough physical game.
Well, it's funny. The other night, everyone was chatting in chat, and they were talking about the heights of different players. And one of the guys in chat was like, "Yeah, like isn't like Dakota Joshua and Tyler Myers, they're the same height?" And I was like, "No. Tyler Myers is 6'8". Dakota Joshua is only 6'3", right? Like, I mean, he's still 6'3", but like the fact that you think he is as big as Tyler Myers shows you what a buster he is out there, right?
Yeah, he plays a big game. He brings the energy every single time. Net front presence, finishes every check. Sherwood's similar, but Sherwood isn't quite as big and doesn't quite have the offensive upside that Joshua brings, I don't think. So we definitely will be welcoming him back with open arms sooner rather than later, hopefully.
Yeah. Well, speaking of welcoming people back, we're glad to see Forbort has rejoined the team. was gone for personal reasons. Dustin, I know you looked into it and they've announced what happened. What happened with Forbort?
Yeah, they announced that he lost his father to a battle with colon cancer, which is, obviously devastating,
Yeah,
and would obviously likely point to some of the struggles he had in the beginning of the season. Obviously, his mental state was likely elsewhere,
right.
similar to what Besser went through with his dad. You know, Sometimes as fans, we tend to forget that hockey players are very young
Yeah,
and they have personal lives. We tend to put them on a pedestal and look at them like superheroes or invincible. But Derek Forbort's only 32 years old.
mm,
As someone, as a fan, try and put yourself in that position as a 32-year-old man. Just in the prime of your career, and you lose your father to colon cancer. It's devastating. And
yeah.
Besser losing Duke to all of his struggles. These things are very serious issues, and we expect them just to brush them off and go play hockey, whereas something like that could derail someone for months, years.
Oh yeah, I
we
mean,
we tend to.
you lose your parents, and that's something that sticks with you for a long time, especially when it's that young.
Yeah, so hopefully, it's nice to have him back. Hopefully he can get some skating time in. Obviously it'll be good to be with the team, likely get some of that camaraderie back, some bonding. Maybe Besser can reach out as a leadership moment and say, "Hey, I went through something similar."
Yeah,
It can turn a negative into a positive with things like this when you have a community like a hockey team and that. So
yeah,
hopefully he just comes back and maybe we'll see him in a game here soon and playing much better and more focused.
yeah. So I didn't even tell you anything about, other than the fact that I wanted to talk to you about the Canadian goalie for the Four Nations Cup. Because we talked a little bit about this, and then obviously Skinner's one of them, like Bennington, like these are guys who are at the top of the list, but are not doing well at all. Like Skinner has had his moments this year, but he should not be your goalie going into this tournament.
No.
So I want to put something before you and tell me if I'm insane, or tell me if you think that it might actually work. The Flower, Marc-Andre Fleury. Tell me I'm wrong.
Yeah, I mean, you're not wrong. As a glue guy, I mean, do you go Marc-Andre Fleury, Cam Talbot, like just go with the old guard in
Yep.
net? Like honestly, when you bring up Marc-Andre Fleury, that immediately made me think like, well, let's just bring Cam Talbot too, because
Yeah.
he's a proven winner on the international level. Um, I mean, you're not crazy.
It's not like he's playing bad. Like obviously, Gustafson down in Minnesota is their number one guy, but Marc-Andre
Yeah.
Fleury I think he's 1-0-1 so far this season. His numbers are fine, right? Like it's not like he's the world banging goalie that he was before, but at the end of the day, why not?
Exactly. And I mean, for a small gimmicky tournament like this that it is, I mean, why not play someone like, and he'd be exactly the type of guy you'd want to go to market something like this. So,
Oh
I
yeah,
mean, it's not the craziest idea in the world.
could be his
And
last
given
hurrah.
the given and that's another thing, like with this Four Nations Cup, we need to remember that it's a Gary Bettman driven money making thing.
Mm,
So we can't expect it to be like the Olympics or the Stanley Cup. Like it's not the best of the best that we're going to get.
right.
We're going to get mediocre high offense hockey. No one's going to body check anybody. No one's going to get hurt. It's going to be like a bunch of different all-star games being played. So it's
Mm.
not the worst idea in the world. Maybe let the guy have one last hurrah.
Yeah, I was thinking that just came to me, and so let's put that out in the universe. Let's start the trend on Twitter. Marc-Andre Fleury, number one goalie for Team Canada at the Four Nations Cup.
Let's do it.
Mr. Bains, we thought he got his second night, got his first goal against the Penguins the other night. The fourth goal ends up being the game-winning goal for that. What does that mean for a guy who literally grew up down the number one in Surrey, wasn't drafted? Bains getting his first goal.
I think it's just a testament to following your dreams and putting in the hard work. Anything can happen. It's a really cool local story,
Mm.
especially for an Indo-Canadian, right? Like we look at that and we look at all these players that come out of Canada, but you look at the diversity that we have in Canada and the lack of other other
Cultures,
minorities
ethnicities.
getting
Yeah.
into the game, like even when the Koreas were playing, that was a huge thing, right,
Mhm.
for BC. And so now maybe you look at his game and it just continues to improve, and it's a great story, and he's really endearing himself to a lot of young local players. My
Mhm.
nephew's a player for Delta Academy, and he plays defense for them. And as soon as Baines scored, my sister was telling me, he said he was so excited because he looks at his mom and goes, Baines went to Delta Academy. So he's all excited now and thinking, oh, like I have a shot, and it's just cool that he's someone local to look up to, for kids to grow and start wearing those Baines jerseys, and hopefully he can solidify himself in the big club.
Mhm.
And if he keeps playing the way he's playing, that line has shown that they're able to keep the puck in the right end of the ice. That was one of the things in the first period. That line was probably the only line that was playing in Carolina's end most of the
Yeah.
period. So
Did you notice Pedersen's line at all? Like, did they have a shift? Because I don't think I noticed
invisible.
them at all.
No, I think one shot from Garland is all I kind of noticed, and they need to do more for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. So I wanted to leave a little extra time today to talk about the Abbey Canucks because there's a couple things I wanted to pick your brain on. But first, do you want to just give them? I mean, I looked for the highlights. I couldn't find any highlights. It's not because there wasn't a video. It was because there wasn't much to watch in their second game against the Eagles, right?
The Gulls.
The
They were
Gulls.
playing
Sorry.
the San Diego Gulls.
Yeah.
Colorado Eagles was last
Yeah.
weekend,
Yeah. Yeah.
but yeah, they had a tough game. Got into some penalty trouble in the second period, which really kind of derailed the game. It was 2-0. It was kind of just a back and forth game. Abbotsford was trying to generate chances, but a 5-on-3 late in the second was when it went from 2-0 to 4-0 in the blink of an eye. Tolopilo probably wants the fourth goal back. It wasn't his greatest effort on that save, but also there was a couple of feeble shot block attempts on goal 3 from
Mhm.
Brisebois and goal 4 from Friedman, which could have maybe blocked the release of the puck from Tolopilo. So giving him a little bit of leeway on that because he's been so solid to start the year.
Do you think they regret having Tolopilo play both nights? Do you think there was any like it was like fatigue at all for him, or was it just it is what it is?
I think it was an is what it is thing. I mean, the 5-on-3 was just 5-on-3. It's tough play. Brisebois went for a shot block that just wasn't a well advised shot block.
Right.
Um, and then the last goal there was 7 seconds left in the second. It's probably the only goal of the game that Tolo really wants back. He probably had a decent look at it and slipped through his blocker. But in the third period was they did push back. They
Mm-hmm.
they had 13 shots on net in the third period, held the goals to only one shot against. But they ran into Oscar Dance, who played very solid, and he stole the game for the Gulls for sure.
Yeah.
We I think had the majority of the shots in the game, 30 to 21 or something like that.
Yeah.
So
Just a
we
situation of
did
too
try
little,
to.
too late, right?
Yep, definitely. And Waters did have a shorthanded penalty shot that he scored on in the third, but we need to stay out of the box and move forward from there.
Yeah. So I wanted to pick your brain on a couple of the guys down there, Lecker and Pedersen, because I actually managed to watch most of that game. It's the only game I've been able to watch so far this year. That's why I'm extra bitter.
Hmm.
So I noticed with Pedersen, obviously DPD, who I'm talking about, Elias. Which one is it? It's Elias. No, it's
Elias is PD.
yeah.
Elias.
Elias is the one in the AHL. Yeah.
Yeah.
So Pedersen, I noticed great first pass out of the zone, good movement, great shot. But the one thing I noticed, do you think he's maybe still adjusting to the North American ice? Because I noticed some of his like wraparound passes, his timing looks slightly off, and there maybe even was just like a touch of like panic in some of those like quick. Is that kind of what you're seeing from him so far this year?
Yeah, when you said you were gonna ask about him. It's one of the points I made was the adjustment from the European ice to the North American ice. He's also being asked to take on quite a large role, right out of the gate with Abbotsford. He's playing on the penalty kill. He's getting some power play time. He's finding his game. He's playing physical. He gets his shots through to the net. He definitely finishes his checks. He likes to muck it up after the play. He's not shy to that, which is amazing to see from a defenseman like that. He's got size, and he's almost like a more physical, more in your face Alex Edler.
Yeah.
With a bit more offensive upside. Like he likes to get the shot through. He sees it. He sees it. He sees the play offensively well. So I think the adjustment to the North American ice, I'd give him probably a month.
Yeah.
To do it. It does look like his timing's just a touch off, and once that comes, he's going to be a force down there. I think we'll be very, very pleased with his progression.
Yeah. Then the other thing I wanted to ask you about with Lekermacki and with DPD, the thing I'm liking about what they're doing down there with him is essentially DPD's paired up with Friedman most of the time. And then Lekermacki is also on a line, and he's playing with a couple guys who Phil Giuseppe and Atu Ratu, right? So you essentially have what could be a line for both of them in the NHL, but they're playing in the NHL. So I'm liking that. Is that kind of working well for them? I mean, Lekermacki has a one game, but do you feel they can get the similar experience playing on these lines as they would actually playing limited minutes in the NHL?
I absolutely. Yeah, that's a great point you make there. And I think it's a testament to Manny Malhotra as the new head coach down there. I think obviously he's a seasoned NHL veteran who knows exactly what it takes to grind through the league and grind and have the right attitude. So to pair up your top prospects with the guys who have played in the NHL, kind of bounce back and forth and know what the game is up there to lead those guys is a great idea. And Lekermacki in his 2 games has really been driving the offense. He's got 8 shots on goal in 2 games. And so it's just a small sample size, but his line mates are finding him and he is finding the net. So it's only a matter of time with his shot and release that it starts finding the twine.
Thought you were about to say it's only a matter of time before they call him up because the Canucks power play can't score.
That too.
Awesome, Dustin. We didn't get a chance to talk about Tom Willander. We'll hang on to that thought for the post-game show. Pucks just dropped, so let's let the kids get into the action, and we'll talk to you again at the end of the game. Enjoy the second and third period, brother.
You too. Talk to you soon.
Missed it by that much.
So how are you feeling, buddy? How are you feeling at the end of that?
Ooh, lucky. Very lucky. Lankinen. Holy moly. We owe that point to him big time. He had 5 or 6 huge saves there in the second and third period.
Yeah.
So I think we're lucky. It's hard fought to get the point back for sure. Hughes had a tough night defensively, I think. It was good of him to get the goal with the big shot, showing off the new shot that he's been working on. But I really don't think he had the greatest night defensively, and he'd probably admit that as himself.
It's probably every member of that team has to look at their defensive game tonight because there was a lot of flat-footedness. There was a lot of breakdowns. And I mean, even like I said at the end there, Hughes and Miller, 2 really guys that should be sound defensively, end up on the same side of the ice, leaving the Carolina player all alone on that side, easy pass, and he's got a streak to the net, Aho, right? So.
Yeah, exactly. And that goes along with the rest of Hughes' night defensively. You know, the other 2 goals, the second and third goal for Carolina, Hughes was kind of out of position on both of those. So I liked bumping Bains up to the Pedersen line.
Yeah,
that appeared to give that line a lot more energy for the rest of the game. It was a good move there. Petey had the game on his stick, so close, but
had to avoid that. That stick had been tossed aside in front of the net, so he avoids the poke check, and he finally gets to an angle where he may be able to shoot it, and then Svechnikov gets back, gives him a bump, and knocks him down. Right,
blows him up.
Yeah, blows him right up.
Blows him right up. Um, yeah, no, he fought. He had to fight around that loose stick there. If that loose stick isn't there, I think maybe he buries that because he would have been able to do something a little different. But very very happy we got a point. Yeah, I think Hughes's shot was good. Bains on the PD line. There was one more thing I was gonna bring up, but it's slipping my mind right now.
So Pettersson, I want to chat a little bit about him because something I've been talking about with Pettersson more than anything I think in his entire game is the amount of times he's on his ass. Because you see it, and I get it. Like he's trying to do fancy stuff. He's using his feet. He's got weird angles going on. But at the end of the day, like you said, he got blown up by Svechnikov, right? You have to be stronger. As somebody who played hockey growing up, what did your coaches say to you about like how you get stronger on your skates so even when you don't see the hit coming, you're not getting knocked over? Like what does he need to do?
Something I've noticed recently is he's playing really narrow on his feet. Like he's not getting a wide stance. He looks really, really small, and so that's making him easy to knock over. He's got to get a little lower and get that center of gravity down. He did bulk up the one-off season, but he hasn't really done much since to push his size. So it could be some lingering issues with the knee, but it could also be a fear of hurting the knee by holding his ground. That could be a mental thing that's holding him back because I've had a pretty bad knee injury from hockey before, and it's a mental struggle to get back and put yourself in the situations where you had that injury happen. So that being said, he's getting paid $11.6 million. So when is the time that the coaches really get on him and maybe he starts riding the pine a little bit, or he starts getting moved down the lineup a little bit and sees less ice time? Because I don't know what the message is that he needs to receive, but he needs to get some of the fire back that he had. And the beginning of last year, he was throwing his weight around and really playing well physically, and it's a part of his game that's diminished. And I think a big issue now with where we see his game is at, he's struggling offensively.
Yeah.
He is still doing the things defensively that make him valuable away from the puck, and he's killing penalties. I mean, huge 5-on-3 penalty kill there from the boys. That was the other thing I was going to bring up is about 5 or 6 missed calls by the officials late in that game. Both ways. They missed a couple calls on us against Carolina. We took down Chatfield. Sherwood, I think it was, took down Chatfield there, or Bains, I think, took down Chatfield. It should have been probably a call against us, but
right. I fully thought it was a power play. Like I said, the Carolina just got another power play, and then somehow it didn't get called.
Yeah, and when we were on our power play, very easily could have been a 5-on-3 called there, and a couple other spots where Sherwood kind of got mauled, and the DeBrusque play there where it could have been interference, cross-checking, any of the above. When he got smoked into the net there, you can't be letting all of that go. I understand not wanting to have an impact on the game, but when it's a blatant breaking of the rules, you got to call it.
Well, I mean,
but we all know Wes McCauley
JT
is
Miller. I think that might have been the most egregious one, right? Like JT Miller didn't even get to get a shot, and the guy had his sticks all the way in JT Miller's hands, hooked him right off, and I mean, it penalty shot or some kind of a penalty. It absolutely should have been called right there.
Well, and the main thing we always hear as fans is when an offensive opportunity is taken away, that's when the penalties are usually called. And so on that one, you really expect it to be called. And with the no call, of course, then the fans come out with the serenading the refs after that one. But there was a number, but we all know Wes McCauley is all about Wes McCauley. So if he can have an impact on the game, he will. So,
yeah. I just got a comment here from Toymaker, new in the chat. 4 home games, 4 times the other team dictated the game. You've got to set the tone in your own building. How do they get back to
Absolutely.
setting the tone in their own building?
Um, they got to have a better start. I and I don't know. When we talked, the one of the games we talked about how they had a really good start because they started the third line and the third line scored 20 seconds into the game. I think maybe starting an energy line every time. Who cares who the top line is? If you got guys that can get your team going, throw them out there. That Bluger, Sherwood, and Heinen line has really looked great
Yep.
since coming together. They drive the play in the offensive zone. They're defensively responsible. Every single one of them finishes their checks. So maybe they're the line that has to just be out there every time we drop the puck.
Well, the one thing
I
I was
know
thinking too is with the power play, with the issues that they've been having, you're talking about starting the third line to start the game. In my head, the power play is not working. Let's look at having whoever the best line is, right? If you got your third line as the best line, you got your fourth line as the best line, give them some power play time. Give them that candy. Let them know if they play well, they get that. And who knows, like it might end up better, a little bit more straight ahead, a little bit more on the nose, driving the net rather than the spinoramas and the, backhand passes that we see from the top unit.
exactly. Sometimes there might be such a thing as too much talent on a power play.
Yeah.
Too many guys trying to do too many fancy things. So, yeah, I'd love to see something like that as well. And you got to think sooner or later something has to change. It's hard as a fan when we get a power play and you're not even excited because you're more worried they're going to get scored on. Because arguably we play our worst defensive hockey when we're on a man advantage.
Yeah. Got Katie in the chat, loving the Rusty and Dusty post game show. Welcome, Katie. Yeah, if you guys have any questions or anything for us, we're gonna go for a couple more minutes. So if you have anything you wanted to ask Dustin or myself, feel free to put it in the chat and get it up on the screen for you. The other thing I wanted to ask you about is, are you worried the Canucks might be riding Lankinen too much? Like at some point, I know he's been playing well, but at some point, do you think Shilov's development is going to get messed up by not getting any starts? Are you worried that they need to maybe get him into a game, or are you looking ahead to maybe one of the first back-to-backs?
I would expect to see him in a game here soon. It'll depend on how the wear for Lankinen is after this game, because this game probably was one of the harder games that Lankinen has played.
Yeah.
The shots he faced were the largest number of high quality chances I would say he's faced in a game.
Yeah.
The other games where he's faced a number of shots, a lot of them were kept to the outside. So, but that being said, you got to find your place to put Shilovs in a position to succeed, because you don't want to throw him to the wolves of like the New Jersey Devils, who are scoring at a ridiculous pace to start the season.
Yeah.
I mean, their third line is generating more offense than we are, so that's they have very potent offense, and you can't just throw them in there. So it's got to be difficult for him not getting into games after the playoffs that he had last year.
Mm-hmm.
But he also has to be realistic in the fact that a more veteran goalie is playing lights out.
Yeah.
And I think as a teammate, you have to be realistic in that. You can't expect to take the goal away from a guy who is giving you a chance to win every night. So
I think it's one of those things.
w-
It's the Demko waiting game at this point, because I think they're really just looking to have Demko come back, and then Shilovs can go back down to the AHL. Well, depending on what they do, they might even want with 3 goalies if they got the cap space. But I mean, right now, if Demko comes back tomorrow, it's Demko and Lankinen as 1 and 2 in this team, and Shilovs is out to lunch.
Yeah, I mean, he almost even becomes tradable at that point. With the prospects we have in Abbotsford, in Tolopilo, Patera, you got Ty Young in Kalamazoo with the ECHL team. So
Right.
we are not starving for goalies by any means right now.
No. Yeah, Toymaker is making the point. Tolopilo was out playing Shilovs before the playoffs call up. I'm more excited about Tolopilo, and you're probably right to feel that way, Toymaker.
Yeah, and Tolopila has a very strong start to the season in Abbotsford so far. I wouldn't put too much stock into the 4-1 loss last game. Some of that was power play issues, or penalty kill issues rather.
So we got another big game coming up later this week as the Canucks are looking to host. It's the New Jersey game coming up on Wednesday. It's going to be a later game too, 7:30. Like you said, the Devils scoring in bucket loads this year. What do the Canucks need to do to start this game to be ready to go?
They have to dictate the play and drive the play. So they have to make sure they're keeping the puck in the New Jersey end, and they have to make sure they're limiting those quick breakout passes. New Jersey likes to spread the ice out and get out really quickly, and they like to score off the rush really fast. It's not a big team where they come and they set up. They come in and they strike quick, and you have to be ready. So you can't be giving up soft passes. We're going to have to clean up those outlets, the first pass out of the zone. Those weak clearing attempts, they're going to prey off of those, and they're going to strike quick and fast, and it'll be in the back of our net faster than you can even realize who turned the puck over.
Yeah. We saw a little bit of that tonight. So hopefully maybe this game as a sneak preview for New Jersey. Vancouver can take some stuff out of this and be ready a little bit more for the New Jersey Devils. The Canucks have only lost one game in regulation, right?
Exactly. I mean, we are a bit panicky because of the offensive struggles of a few players. However, we are finding ways to win, which is what you want for a championship team. You find ways to win when you're not at your best and when you don't have all your best players. So hopefully when we get someone like Joshua back, that'll be the first little boost to maybe the offense and push the offense. And then when we get Demko back, that'll just be the galvanizing moment for the team to really take off. And then, I mean, with a healthy team and Demko in net, this is a Stanley Cup caliber team. And with a Pettersson that can find the back of the net as well.
Yeah.
And, he's not the only one struggling. So it's league wide that some stars are struggling as well. I mean, you got Austin Matthews in Toronto. He's only got 3 goals, I think, or 7 points. So it's not like he's the only star that's struggling to find the back of the net. It's just in Vancouver, we're very passionate fans and we expect the most out of our stars. And sometimes we can be a little impatient when that happens.
Just a bit. Well, let's hope the start is better on against New Jersey coming up. Like I said, it's a later start, 7:30 start, so we'll be getting live here. Dustin, you'll be there during the first intermission for the post game show as well. And then me and Dustin, like we've talked about a little bit, we're looking at doing a little bit of more podcast style stuff. So we're getting together on Wednesday to have a chat before the game. So Dustin, any last words for the viewers before I let you go, brother?
No, I appreciate everyone hanging out in the chat, and I appreciate you having me on again, Russ. And hopefully Wednesday we can have a good, solid start, and we have much more ups to talk about because the last couple games we've been trying to sift through a lot of downs to find the ups.
Yeah.
So
let's look for some ups.
Absolutely.
Cool, brother. Have a great night. Thanks for stopping by.
You as well. We'll talk to you on Wednesday.
Nothing is perfect.